can all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. Thanks for playing today. How's everybody doing? Anyone here for the first time? What brings you here now that I've put you on the spot?
Just a group to meditate.
You don't even know these people. You sure you want to meditate with them?
Guess I'll find out.
They're all right. I saw another hand in the back. She brought you. Blame it on her, huh? A lot of people get dragged here, over the years, and sometimes it ends well, and I don't know, sometimes not. But good luck with that. You can report back later. We tend to come into this practice initially for a lot of people thinking that it's for us and that it's really to benefit us in our life. And that is very true. And this practice ultimately does benefit you in your life. But ultimately, what this practice is about is recognizing a huge part of everyone's life is interacting with others. I mean, we really cannot go without interacting. I mean, maybe you could quarantine, isolate, maybe odd time to make that statement, but for a short period of time. But even in that regard, there's still some sort of relationship or dependence on others. And aside from that situation, for the most part, every day, all of us interact with a lot of people. Some of them we know, some of them we love, we care about, family, relationships, whatever it might be. Some of them we know and maybe we don't care for them so much. Anyone have anyone you know and love and they drive you crazy, right? So I won't make show of hands, but thank you for those who offered that up, right? So we have those as well. And then there's absolute strangers that we interact with all day long. You just interacted with so many people on the way here without even necessarily recognizing it, no matter how you got here. Whether you walked, you took public transportation, whether you rode your bike, whether you drove a car, you interacted with a lot of other people on your way here. Not to mention, other animals and sentient beings and environments and types of, situations that we encounter every day of our life. And so while we initially come into this practice thinking, hey, I need to deal with stress or anxiety or anger or sadness or depression or whatever it might be, or I just want to calm down, or I want to find others to meditate with, whatever that initial thing is that draws us to this practice, whether it's here or anywhere, it is really beneficial to stop for a moment and recognize, hey, none of this goes on, meaning my life, without tons of people around me. And my relationship with them, again, whether we know them or whether they're strangers, my interactions with them, my views of them, the way I treat them, the way I respond to them, all of those things are critically important for your own mental, emotional health and well-being. And, I've been doing this a long time where often I hear people say like, well, I just ignore everybody. And that's also coming from a place of not so much love and kindness. It's coming from a place of, I just don't like you. I'm going to close myself off and just, shut out the world. But this practice is opening up to the world. And it starts with opening your heart and mind to yourself and to be very real and honest with who you are and how you are. And then you bring that into your interactions with others. So, while yes, we begin with thinking it's all about us, bless you. This practice really is about people we don't even know, we don't even see, and we'll have no idea who they are. So, with that, to our millions of followers on YouTube, welcome. Good to see you all this morning. Actually, I can't see any of you, but glad you're here. Sorry, Tuesday night we had sound issues for some reason, but I appreciated you all who just signed up and sat silently for an hour. There was only like 2 people who did that, but a couple things to tell you before we begin with the meditation practice. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is it working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos, and this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos. Don't judge this and don't try to stop your mind. Right? If you think your mind is going to go blank or it's going to shut off, you're going to think nothing. It just doesn't happen. You'll end up sitting there telling yourself, think nothing, and that's still thinking. So I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought or that you've fallen asleep and to bring you back to the present moment. Posture, if you are on a cushion, often helps sliding to the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Same if you're on a bench or a chair, just trying to gently push the stomach forward, allowing the shoulders to relax. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important with this practice, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders. jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered. why you got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. They began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your days. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful. Whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. Meditation is direct perception into the present moment. And very often the present moment is incredibly difficult. And for many people, they spend their entire lives recognizing the present moment, having an aversion to it, and trying to escape from it. That's how most people end up at meditation. Things are challenging, things are difficult. Let's go meditate and fix things. Meditation doesn't fix anything. Any of you have a crazy, hectic life right now? This didn't change that. I wish it did. And I wish it was that simple that you could just like press a button, go to meditation, and everything in your life's going to be perfect. Whatever mess you have in your life right now, or whatever beauty you have in your life right now, or whatever chaos you have in your life right now, the last 20 minutes didn't change any of that. What this does is it allows our mind to slow down, ideally, in time, and settle. So then when we go back to our existing life, all the chaos, all the joy, all the stress, all the happiness, whatever it is, we view it, approach it, and embrace it with a calmer, steadier, quieter mind. Learning to be with life as it is the first step. We spend so much of our lives trying to fix, control, change, manipulate everything around us and everyone around us. Hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, trying to get them to do this, to get that. There's so much time and energy and emphasis focused on trying to get other people to be a certain way, to do certain things. And this practice is about recognizing our reaction to the world around us. And when we do that, your life drastically changes. Because your happiness, your joy, your contentment, your peace of mind, your pleasant heart has nothing to do with anybody else. It has to do with you. But it is a practice. The Buddhist teachings and learning meditation and how to integrate into this practice into your life is not a 6-week course that just fixes things. Whatever you have in life right now, like I said earlier, the stress, the chaos, the happiness, the joy, those things will always be there and they will change. Whatever challenge or difficulty you're facing right now, at some point that challenge and difficulty will be behind you. Most likely. But what do you think's waiting for you? Another challenge, another difficulty. Whatever is pleasant and happy and joyful in your life right now, that too at some point will be gone. This is the Buddhist teachings on impermanence. Everything changes. And whatever is pleasant and joyful and happy in our life will change. And in the future, there will be other people and places and things that are pleasant and joyful and happy in our lives. So these things just constantly change. The one thing that's steady in all of this is us. As long as we have our breath, we are, and have, I should say, the ability to be present with everything that's going on. And can we become an observer of that present moment instead of just emotionally thrown around through every interaction, which is what most people do. Things happen around us and our emotions just become like this crazy roller coaster ride. Someone says one thing and we are like so happy and thrilled. Someone says another thing and we feel like the worst person in the world. Someone likes something we posted and we're like, yay. Someone doesn't like it and we're like, what happened? I mean, it was bad enough already, and then social media just made it a million times worse, But I don't have enough time for all that right now. And those old folks in here, we all had other versions of like, a like or a thumbs up or a little heart or whatever it is. It just happened different ways. Now it's just immediate and in the palm of your hand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's even more challenging. Which for all people, which is why it's even more critical to just come back to, here's my breath, here's my mind, here's my heart. Can I stay present and just have gratitude and appreciation for being alive? And be grateful for all the challenges you will face today and all the joy you will face today. Because that means we're alive. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that you're all sitting with. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning. And I'll respond to your thoughts and your questions. And again, everybody joining us online, welcome. Thanks for being here. There's a chat box, as you know. Feel free to say hello, introduce yourself. And if you have any questions, you can chime in here as well. And I'll do my best to respond. Thoughts, questions? Yes.
I know many times you said that Buddha is a man, just like all of us.
Yes.
And I was thinking, after getting some very sturdy news about a friend of mine, in religion that was brought up in, there were ways that we could feel connected to someone that had more power. Either prayer.
Did you say connect? Sorry, connect with someone that had more power?
Yes.
Okay.
Through prayer and rosary even giving up things. So after I heard this news about this particular friend of mine, I was wondering, what is it then in Buddhism that can or can't equate to asking somebody if I feel powerless in this particular situation? That I think might be able to at least assuage some of the pain of this other person, not me.
Okay. I'm with you like 80% of the way. I just need a little more clarification on, and then I'm going to attempt to repeat this, which will be impossible, but I'll try for those at home here. What I'm not clear on is the power part. And you said you received terrible news about somebody. So are you referring to somebody that maybe passed away or someone that is ill or something like that?
Yeah.
And ill. And so what I'm missing the question here is, are you asking, I get the parallel part, I'll touch on that in a minute, but is the question, how do you, for example, pray, or who do you ask for to help heal this person? Or I'm missing that part.
Okay, no, if I was still practicing my
Okay.
religion,
Yeah.
I would know what to do.
What to do?
But when I think about Buddhism, maybe it's because I'm a novice and I don't know that much about it. When I think about Buddhism, is there a comparable asking for for instance, A to be a script.
Got it. Okay, I needed that. Thank you for clarifying that. So, and now I'm just going to paraphrase for those joining us virtually and then correct me if I'm completely wrong. So your question is, you were raised with a specific religion, and in that religion, when someone was ill, for example, there was a way that you could ask or pray. You didn't say pray, but ask for someone with more power or higher power to help heal or whatever it may be this individual. So you're asking in Buddhism, and maybe because you're a novice, you're just not sure, is there a comparable component? Is that your question? Close enough? Yeah? Okay. So let me just start by saying this, and then I'll get to the question. Very often, and this is super common, because for the most part, everybody in here, well, show of hands, anyone in here raised Buddhist? 0 hands. Okay. What that means is, for the most part, in Western places of practice, those who come in to learn about Buddhism aren't coming to become Buddhist, and they're not Buddhist. Also show of hands, how many of you here are Buddhist? Nobody, right? That's standard across the board. If I let a group and there's 80 people and I say, how many are Buddhist? You'll see like 2.5 hands, right? 2 are like, yes, I'm all in, and the half is like, I'm not really sure. So it's not important that you are Buddhist, nor do people come here to be Buddhist, right? I'm Jewish. People here are Christian, Catholic, Muslim, pagan, or lack thereof, where they're like, you know what, forget it, I'm against all religion. Great, whatever you have or don't have. And the Buddha was asked, I start with this because it's an important understanding, I think, to then get into the question. The Buddha was asked 12 questions that he would not answer. And one of them was, should we believe in gods and goddesses? Now, at that time, the view of gods and goddesses was very different from what we were looking at today. This is 500 years before Christ, and they were Hindu. So what they were asking about was, should we believe in Hindu gods and goddesses? Should we believe in Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma and Lakshmi and Saraswati and Parvati, all these gods and goddesses? Should we believe in that, is what they asked the Buddha. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm just a human. I can't tell you to believe in gods and goddesses or not. If you want to believe in them, believe in them. If you don't, don't. It was not his role or his place to tell you what religious views to have. His place was to teach people how to live a kind, gentle, compassionate life. So I want to start there, that Buddhist practice isn't about becoming Buddhist. Somebody years ago, and this is not for you, just for everybody, somebody years ago asked the Dalai Lama, does this country need more Buddhists? And the Dalai Lama said, the world has enough Buddhists. This country just needs more people who are peaceful and happy. So ultimately, the Buddhist view is not about being Buddhist or becoming Buddhist. Keep your religion or not, be kind, be gentle, and treat people with respect. That's what this practice is about. Now, in that regard, it's a philosophy and a way of life. Buddhist teachings are not about a belief in a higher power. They're not about a belief in a God, and by definition, religion is belief in a higher power, and Buddhism is not about that. There is no God in Buddhism, right? Often people say, well, what did the Buddha think about Jesus? Well, the Buddha died 500 years before Jesus was born. So nothing. Would have had nothing to say about him. And what's interesting there is that the years after, people often refer to Jesus as a bodhisattva, meaning a fully enlightened human being. That's kind of the historical scholarly view of Jesus. And then you can tie God and everything else into that whole piece, which I'm not going into. But this brings us to your question of, okay, well, this is what I was raised in this Western religion, to pray or whatever it might be to whatever person for whatever thing. My first suggestion always is, it makes it challenging when we look for parallels between religions and Buddhism, because there isn't always that parallel. I'm saying this and I'm going to contradict what I'm saying right now, but I still want to say this, is that if we are raised with a certain view of a religion, we say, well, what's the Bible version in Buddhism? Who do we pray to in Buddhism? When we try to make those parallels and those leaps, they're very often not there. Now, to your question directly, in Buddhism, and very specifically within Mahayana Buddhism, you would pray and you would endlessly chant the name of the medicine Buddha, right there, which is the Buddha for health and healing. It is in my personal, it's not what I share, it's not what I teach, it's not what I lead, because nobody's here, for the most part, to learn how to chant and recite the name of the medicine Buddha in another language, right? People don't really care about that stuff, the average Western person. They just want to feel better. Take away my stress, my chaos, help me feel better. They don't want to get down and recite sutras and chant, because that's comparable to what most people grew up doing in Western religions, which is just saying a bunch of stuff they didn't even know anyways. So why would people come into Buddhism later in life and want to do that? They don't. They want to feel better. But you go to Taiwan, for example. You go to Thailand. You've been in Asian countries where Buddhism is the way of life. It's a heavy religious, devout, faithful practice. And if you go to Buddhist temples in San Diego, within 10 miles, there's probably 20 what I call cultural temples. You can go to a Taiwanese temple, a Japanese temple, a Thailand temple, a Vietnamese Buddhist temple. Go to all of them. And when you're there, you will see and feel and observe what you see, not much different from any other Western religion, with the bowing, the chanting, the rituals, the robes, very formal, people telling you where to sit, how to kneel, how to open up your hands when you bow. How many of you came here because you want to be taught how to open your hands when you bow? I don't think so. In those practices and in that tradition, they have great faith. And to them, it is a religious practice. And and this is what I was taught 19 years ago. And so it's part of my personal life every single day. I do it in our offering. I take the triple gem here and we recite the triple gem, and then I turn to the medicine Buddha, because this world needs so much healing right now. So the medicine Buddha. Yeah. Short answer, medicine Buddha. Long answer, everything I just said. Yeah. Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
What about the loving kindness meditation, for someone else?
Yes, absolutely. So the question of what about the loving kindness meditation for someone else? Another beautiful example. And thank you for pointing that out. For me, I went to specifically my personal practice because I'm not a metta loving kindness. God knows I need more loving kindness, but that's not my approach. It's very much the Chan or Zen Pure Land school, which also comes with the medicine Buddha. Loving kindness, the sending metta, is a wonderful practice and Alex leads our loving kindness practice on Wednesday nights, of sending loving kindness and compassion and healing and prayers. Same thing with, we do Sunday nights. Kayla and Amy lead our Tonglen practice, which is a Tibetan practice very much similar to the metta loving kindness, where you're sending healing. The Tonglen practice is another, and loving kindness. Tonglen, it's just virtual still on Sunday nights, but that's another beautiful practice, Tonglen. And it's a beautiful practice of sending healing. So all of those prayers and well wishes and things, they exist in Buddhism. Yeah, thank you. The word metta means loving kindness. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah.
So often you bring up about when you ask in a group who's a Buddhist and nobody raises their hand, or very few people.
Yeah.
I feel like the correct answer is not to raise your hand, but I don't understand why. I mean, isn't saying you're a Buddhist just saying I feel like my life and my faith is informed by the tenets of Buddhism. So
Sure.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, great question. I don't even know how to repeat that, but it was all around kind of clarity. I don't want to use the word confusion, but almost confusion around like, am I Buddhist? What defines me as Buddhist? What makes me Buddhist? And I think what you said was you feel that your life that is defined by the tenets of Buddhist teachings. So would that make you a Buddhist? Is kind of what you're saying, right? And you're not really sure how to answer that question. The fact that you're not sure what to answer is perfect.
Well, I feel like you think the correct answer is to say you're not a Buddhist.
No, I don't take this the wrong way, but I don't care what people say. to that question. I'm not looking out expecting no one to raise their hands. Right? It doesn't matter to me, Jeff, and then I'll talk about kind of the, maybe give some more framework around like formal Buddhist stuff. It just, I guess, for education's sake, but I personally, it truly doesn't matter to me if someone is Buddhist or Catholic or Christian or Jewish or Muslim or pagan. Like, that's all for each individual on their own to identify and relate to in their own way. And that's the beauty of it. What I recognize is that in the West, and I've been looking at this practice, like I said, for 20 years, is that most people come to Buddhist stuff and do meditation and love Buddhist teachings, right? Once they kind of get into all this kindness stuff, but then they don't necessarily identify as Buddhist. And I think, I haven't looked at the numbers in a handful of years, but the last I checked, it was like somewhere between 1% and 2% of people in this country identify as Buddhists. But the number of people who actually go to Buddhist places and meditation is so much higher than that, right? So definitely set aside this, and in fact, not just for me, my suggestion is to never be concerned with what anybody expects you to answer. That's a much deeper topic there. But my suggestion for everybody is anyone talking to you is just rambling their thoughts about stuff. Be very clear internally, honestly, openly with who you are, how you identify. That's important on your own right. And come into that place when you feel connected to it, right? So then does that make sense so far? I'm kind of diving into a much deeper kind of topic here. But the next part is, often the question is, well, what does make one Buddhist, right? Which I think is really at the heart of what you're saying. And that, my master used to say, you could shave your head and put on a robe, and that doesn't make you a monk. Buddhist monk. What makes you a Buddhist monk is what's in your mind and what's in your heart. So if in your mind and in your heart, Buddhist teachings is what resonates with you, and it's what you practice, and it's what you aspire to live with, and that feels right to you, then by all means identify yourself as a Buddhist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was growing up, my family was Christian, and
Yeah.
I never felt like I could call myself a Christian because I wasn't perfect.
Sure.
And I feel differently now. I feel like I try to use Buddhism to inform my life. And so next time when you ask who's a Buddhist, I'm
Well, that we just got two, you know what I mean? Yeah. We always joke about, like, Buddhists aren't on the street corner, like holding up signs, like, we have a cross on top of this building, right? We don't even have a sign here. We have a little Bodhi leaf, and nobody even knows what that is. And for years, the first couple of years, there was a sign out front that was from the church, and it had a bunch of letters on it, for like it said Swedenborgian Church and had their schedule. It's like old school church sign with these little like stick up white letters. And when Maggie and I first, we were taking it all down when we first took over the church, and as we're pulling down the letters, we noticed there was like a D, and then there was a T, and then I had like the B in my hand. And so then we left the letters, and they're literally like this big. You couldn't even see them from the sidewalk. So we left DBT up there. I don't know, the sign was there for like a year. And most people just thought we were like a dialectical behavioral therapy place, So it is, yes, a personal thing of like, we don't care what you are. We're not here to make anybody Buddhist. Keep your stuff. But I think you bring up a very good point, which I think some of you connect with, like, hey, this thing is very important to me. And it's totally okay to identify as that. I'm also a big fan, I think, on the formal level that, of course, through predominantly cultural Buddhist temples, as I rambled off before, they have formal refuge ceremonies. They have formal precept ceremonies where you're given like Dharma names, and you take formal refuge in the Triple Gem, and you vow to take these sort of precepts. And in Buddhism, those are kind of things that like formally, historically make you Buddhist. I've just personally never been a big fan of all of that, because while vows are important, I think it's more important for a person, as you just shared, to reach a place at their own time that says, wow, this is important to me. You know, I know when I first took refuge, I'd been to the temple like 2 weeks, and they were like, yeah, we're going up to LA for a refuge ceremony. And I was like, cool, I'm going. I was like, well, there you go. There's your Dharma name. You're a Buddhist, and off you go. And I'm like, I didn't know what that meant, you know? So when it hits your heart, I think that's important. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to tell you that I really resonate with what you're saying. And for me, it's felt like I've had this impression that maybe you can like live your life by the tenets of Buddhism, but it's not a good thing to like identify in that way. Like I think I even heard along the way that the Dalai Lama would not tell you that he's a Buddhist. And I wonder if that is maybe about like identifying your ego with something and rooting into it.
Yeah.
Is that where that comes from?
I think that there's potentially lost in translation, mixed messages around that, that around the world, outside of, especially for Western folks who come into Buddhism, Buddhism is practiced as one of the world's oldest, largest religions, and people absolutely 100% identify as Buddhist. Now, starting with, which is why I love when you say that about the the perfect thing, starting with Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, who built San Francisco Zen Center really in the 50s and 60s during the Beat Generation and all the craziness in San Francisco and the hippies and all that stuff and all the fun, and like Buddhism started to take root there. And at that time, and then you continue on with people like Chogyam Trungpa in Colorado in the 60s and 70s, and then you get into more modern day, starting from the 70s to today, Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein, and Jack Kornfield, right? Sounds like a law firm, right? Kornfield, Goldstein, and Salzberg, right? The three Jews who are three of the most well-known Buddhist teachers around the world. The Western folks who brought Buddhism into this country, their message has always been, from my lens, consistently, it's not about saying you're Buddhist. So that message is definitely kind of permeated throughout Western culture, where I can easily see how it could be kind of translated as like, well, I shouldn't identify or label myself as Buddhist. And I wouldn't necessarily agree that that's the intention, but I can see how that message may be felt. But in a way, I also think that's beautiful, because then it really means that if someone does identify themselves as a Buddhist, like it's reached a place where like it's really important to them, and they're not doing it just because they've signed up for like the next cool thing. You know?
It's sort of like getting married as a divorced person. It's like getting married, and where you say like, okay, well, we got married and we did that, and then it's sort of this thing that you can just set aside because that's just who you are, but you aren't like cultivating it maybe in the ways that you should be.
Right. And I think that that's, again, the approach from some of the teachers that I rambled off, and even the Dalai Lama, that their focus has never been, with Buddhism coming to the West the last really 60 years, has never been about trying to make people say or be Buddhist. That's never been the approach. And they want people to understand, why do you suffer? Why do you get sad? Why do you get angry? How are you greedy? How are you angry? How are you ignorant in your life? How can you be a little more kind, a little more generous, a little more compassionate to minimize your suffering and the suffering of others? That's the heart of the Buddhist teachings. And that's what all these people that I mentioned really want you to connect with. And I think it does play on when you get into this religious stuff. Like in most countries, we're raised and you're just born into and you're thrown into this religion. And here you are. So I think there's a word upaya, which means, or upayic, skillful means. I think it's a very skillful means way of helping Western people understand that they don't have to leave their religion, because a lot of Western folks, their religion is still very important to them. And it can be and it should be. And that doesn't mean that you can't still learn about Buddhist teachings. Yeah. Church bells. Other question? We'll do one more question or thought or comment before we wrap up. Yeah.
When we first were getting into Buddhism, we were ordering a lot of things on Amazon, and I realized at the point, do we want to be Buddhist or just own everything a Buddhist would own?
Right. The Buddha had 7 items. Not that you have to have 7 items, but if I check your pockets right now, you probably got.
And all that, and then really sinking into, what does this really mean? These are tools to go to that place.
Yes. Yes. They are tools. The Buddhist teachings for 45 years before he died, from just wanting us to explore. And so it's great, and I'll kind of close with this thought, it's great to look at what we're talking about because it is very relevant in so many of our lives. And 2 more brief examples. You look at Deer Park up in Escondido, I know many of you have been to, and Thich Nhat Hanh, the late Thich Nhat Hanh, who was so critical for sharing Buddhist teachings in this country and his work with Martin Luther King and social justice and engaged Buddhism, and really going into the community to help those less fortunate and to help oppressed communities and to really work with people's suffering deeply. My understanding is when they built the main meditation hall at Deer Park Monastery, they built the stained glass because they wanted to connect with the Western mind that was used to going to churches with stained glass. The Japanese culture, as Buddhism came into the West, and to this day, even though it gets thrown out a little bit less, they refer to them as Buddhist, it's called BCA, Jodo Shinshu practice, Buddhist churches of America, because they thought, well, let's call it a church, and then maybe the Western folks would show up. Fast forward to today, that might not have been the best plan, right? It doesn't always work for everybody. But again, it's fun maybe fun's the wrong word. It's fascinating to explore it from this level. But ultimately, how are you treating people? And when you look at all the world's religions, for the most part, they're not teaching things that are too much different from all the other great religious leaders or spiritual beings. They're all teaching, the most part, the same message. Be kind, be compassionate, right? Love thy neighbor, all those types of things. And you get an opportunity today to watch. It's just 12 o'clock right now, 12:02. You have all day now to see what's in your mind as you leave here. What's your intention as you go through the day? How are you interacting with others? And are you being honest and kind and gentle? Or not? That's what I think the Buddha wanted us to explore. So, yeah. There's a question here from Jonathan. Could you please talk about the role of friendship in Buddhism? I'll say very briefly, just because I want to wrap up here. The role of friendship in Buddhism is really, it's important, not just in Buddhism, but just in life. I think that the Buddha at the time, with all the monks and nuns in the community, what we call Sangha, all the guidelines, all the precepts, the things that were set up were there to help foster and cultivate and create a healthy community. And within that healthy community, you have healthy friendships and relationships. And so I think having, and I know at the monastery we refer to each other as Dharma brother, Dharma sister, having Dharma brothers and sisters, having friends on any spiritual journey you're on is really important. And the friends are there, not just to kind of be, buddies and pals with, but to also hold you accountable, to challenge you. Very often people kind of come to places like this as like a one-off. It's like, well, there's my family, my friends, and my relationships, then this is the thing I go do by myself. And that's very common. And so it's important along the way, I think, to develop friendships with those who have similar interests and practices as you do, because then they can genuinely and honestly challenge you, question you, discuss things with you. So friendship in Buddhism is important. Friendship, period, is important. But I will say, to, credit my mother, Jonathan, my mom growing up, she always said to me, Jeffrey, in life, you only need one best friend. And I always found that to be a beautiful teaching as well. So, yeah. So I'll close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to more than 6 million lives that have been lost during this pandemic, and to their family and friends who continue to suffer to this day, to those in Ukraine and surrounding areas who've lost lives and suffer, to those children and adults who lost lives in Texas and Chicago shootings. May your family and friends be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. All right, a few quick announcements before you head out. Thanks all for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple 15 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Just about every night we have different practices going on. Even just referenced earlier, the loving kindness on Wednesday and the Tonglen on Sunday. But full schedule just about every night. A recovery sangha for anyone battling addiction, drugs, alcohol, whatever that might be, meets a few times a week. Family sangha for kids, teens, college kids, adults, or parents, I should say, which could be adults as well. All of that is back up and running again after being closed for 16 months. So Buddha for you also downstairs if you need anything. We do from Saturday after 11 o'clock outside if anybody wants to stick around. I know from the palm trees it's pretty consistent now, but if anybody wants to sweep out front on the sidewalk area, that'll really make you Buddhist if you sweep. That's out front. But any gardening you want to do, there's also a list by the door that I don't think was wiped off from last Saturday, but there's a list by the door, basic cleaning tasks, take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you want to help take care of this place. We have no cleaning crew. We are it. So you can meet outside if you want to water or rake or just check something by the door. So thank you all for being here. I wish you well. Good luck.